Hi, everybody. Welcome to Do You Believe on Paranormal Zone TV. I want to thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And for those of you who may be new to the show, if you would please subscribe, I'd appreciate it. And please, after the show, if you enjoyed it, please don't forget to give it a like. And tonight, I'm really excited. I have one of my really good friends with us tonight, Harvey Althaus. I've known Harvey for many years. And I was so excited to find out that Harvey was on the new series on Netflix called The Haunted. And he was on the very first season, and his episode was called, it was episode 4, and it was called Children of the Well. And I talked to Harvey, and I'm so excited to have Harvey come on the show because he's going to talk about the whole complete real story of his terrifying haunting as a child. But before, so hold on for 1 second. This is Harvey. This was the banner, season 1, episode 4, Children of the Well. And this is my friend Harvey. So tonight, with that, please everybody, let's welcome Harvey to the show. Harvey, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Hey there, Norene. Hello, everybody.
Hey,
It's been a long time since the last time I was on your show.
I know.
I've been busy, but I'm just very humbled.
I know.
You have me back on again, and I'm thrilled.
Oh, thank you so much. Hey, Harvey.
Yes.
Before we start the show, would you please tell the viewers about yourself before we start?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Harvey Althaus. I live in the Bay Area, of California, which is now inundated with smoke from the infamous campfire. Hopefully it doesn't get any worse, but something always gets worse before it gets better. But anyways, people would consider me a sensitive or intuitive or a psychic or a medium or whatever else. I'm not quite sure where I fit in because I do so many things. I have a history with the paranormal that goes back to when my first memories is when I was 4, and which we get into the story, I will divulge some stuff that was cut out of the show to make it the 30-minute length, but it's all pertinent to my story and my evolving into who and what I am today. I do many different faculties of psychic abilities, but 2 that I specialize in is actually 3 is energy balance or energy healing, whatever you want to call it. I see things medically in people, and most importantly, and I stumbled upon this about 30 years ago now, it's a thing called remote viewing, which is the ability to see things at a distance, experiencing, and I can experience sound, taste, smell. I can hear things without being physically someplace. And so far, distance has been, no determining factor as far as my accuracy. And what I've done is I have put this availability of my gift, my tool, whatever you want to call it, out to paranormal investigators since shortly after TAPS broke on television in the 2004 first season of TAPS. Never worked with them, but I've since worked with hundreds of individuals and investigation groups from all around the world. They call me and they just give me an address with really nothing else, and they don't share with me any detail as far as experiences or anything that's happening for the people or people who live either on the property or on the property. And I peel back a lot of history when I do a remote viewing on a property. And usually when I do a reading, I pick up a structure that was there first. I've actually I've done readings for brand new houses.
Oh.
That, in my mind, that shouldn't be a new house. It should be a house back from the 1850s or 1880s or early, whatever it is, earlier. And they come to find out when they do a little bit more historical research, I am in fact correct. And I always draw pictures, if I feel I need to illustrate what I'm seeing, because as I'm doing a remote viewing, I'm taking down all these notes. And what I do is I split the paper in half, and I write down, it says my random thoughts and other thoughts. And the other column, I know I wasn't thinking about it. It's got to be coming from the reading that I'm doing. And so I just keep this running tally of words and phrases. And then what happens is before too long, I start stringing them into sentences that means everything to the place or to the person that I'm doing the reading for.
Awesome.
So in a nutshell, I can go on, but that's what I do.
All right.
I've been doing that.
Okay, so let's get into your story. Now, I've known you for many years now, and I never heard the story. You were so kept that a secret. I never heard it. So now, and I saw the episode. It was really well done, very well done. So would you please tell the story then to the? And you know what I did? I watched the video on Netflix, and I clipped some actual pictures from the story that you were telling. So I'm going to use some of those images.
Okay.
I have the image that you captured, that you drew, your sketch of the children and of the well. So we will also show that as well.
Right.
Okay,
right.
so go ahead.
Okay, so anyways, this story more or less starts from the time I was born, but to time crunch, because it's just so much and so vast, and they cut so much out of my story. I was about 4 years of age when people would call it strange things happening around me or wherever I was. I would encounter things that nobody else could see, smell, hear, or whatever. And it got to a point where when I was a kid, although I accepted as a normalcy for me, but I was habitually frightened all the time because of what I was seeing, what I was experiencing. People have referenced the movie The Sixth Sense, starring Bruce Willis in it. I was kind of like that kid, not seeing the gross, gooey stuff that the kid did, but I saw enough to really make you want to, very cringeworthy, okay? And especially when you're talking to your dad or your mother, and there's these weird-looking beings, dancing all around them, around their peripheries, around, peeking their head out, from behind my dad's head, or manifesting like in a mist, in the back of my mother, So, and of course, neither one of those saw any of that. This went on for as long as I can remember, but it wasn't until I would probably say 1966. I was 4 years old, and we had moved around a lot. My family was pretty poor, and we lived through some hardships. But for some reason, there was 6 kids in the family at the time, and my dad moved from job to job, and talk about being eclectic. He'd been a deputy sheriff in the early 1960s. He was a truck driver. He was a welder. He collected scrap, and that's what he ended up doing pretty much the rest of his life. He was more or less kind of a local junk man. But anyways, we moved around several times between not California, between South Dakota, where I was born, to Iowa. And but a lot of moves. Once we got to Iowa, a lot of things. But one of my very first memories, as far as really vivid memory, is I was 4 years old. We had lived in this very small, tiny house out in the country, and it was only about a half a mile at most away from the county home, which back in the day was kind of a place to help families in need, which I cannot believe that we weren't part of that community. But we lived within a half mile of it. But anyways, the house just, there's something wrong with it, and I couldn't explain it. I'm 4 years old, but to me there was always like it was vibrating. Literally every part of this house would vibrate when I put my hand on a wall, I put my hand on the floor, whatever, it was vibrating. It was like almost like static electricity, but and trying to explain this to your parents, because I was afraid to go into my house. Even during the dead of winter, I wanted to stay outside. because I didn't want to go in there. And so, although I had my own room, because I was the only boy, I'm third oldest, I had my own bedroom, and it was just this little tiny, looked like an elongated closet with windows in it. But anyways, I would sleep with my two older sisters in an adjoining room, which was, I think, maybe it was a dining room at one point for whoever it was. But like I said, we had a lot of kids. We had to put them someplace. So I would sleep in between them, and I would hear, at night especially, I remember, taking the pillow and putting it on my ears so I wouldn't hear it, because everything was vibrating and humming all the time. Well, I don't know when, but at some point at the night, I don't know if I was dreaming, but I hear my name called. Like, it sounded like I thought it was one of my younger sisters, and I'm like, okay, what are they doing up? And the only light that was on in the house was the kitchen light, which was down and around the hallway, and it was just cascading into the hallway, into a little bit of the living room, into a little bit of this dining room where I was with my sisters in bed, and then straight ahead was the bathroom. But there was this little wall that came out, it's probably, I don't know, a foot at the most, off the door jamb, it's kind of like separating the dining room from the living room, just a little, divisional wall. And I heard my name, and I could have swore it was one of my younger sisters at the time. So anyways, I peeked up, looking over my oldest sister, and I'm just going to move on a camera just for 1 second, because you have to see this, because this is what I saw. Okay, I'm going to move on a camera, be right back. So picture that this is that door frame.
Yeah. Okay.
I saw this.
Wait a minute.
Calling my
I'll
name.
put you full screen. You saw that while they were calling your name?
Yep, I saw this.
Wow.
And then it'd go in like this. Okay? Well, of course, I never got up. Because all I did was, I remember, I don't know how I woke my sister up, my oldest sister, but I woke her up. And I think, I want to say almost bitter, because I was trying to scream into her back. There's, oh, you just had a dream or whatever. But, so the very next morning I get up and, go over there, and I was afraid to go to the bathroom, and I remember my mom was trying to push me in there because I'm, finishing potty training and stuff, but I didn't want to go in there, and tried to tell her I didn't want to go in there because I tried to show her, what happened to me, of course, as if, depending upon how many viewers out there saw my episode, my mother was very abusive to me at a very young age. She just didn't want to hear it, because I don't know, I couldn't talk, I don't know, I'm 4 years old, trying to explain to her what I'm seeing, and I don't understand why she's not believing me. Well, time moves, we moved to another place, we finally left that place, moved into a bigger place in town, and this would be like a brownstone, like a Chicago brownstone. Mm-hmm. If anybody's out there, know what a brownstone is. It's kind of like an in-town flat. It's a very long, skinny building, brick, 2-story.
Like New York.
But anyways, this particular one, years and years and years later, I found out was built in 1887. Mm-hmm. And it was weird because there was 2 homes, almost exactly the same, except ours was dark brick and was 10 years older than the other one. But right in between us was a church. It was a Presbyterian church. To this day, that church is still there. And the other house. But they knocked down the house that we were renting, the brownstone, to make way for a parking lot, which was already there, but they expanded it, the parking lot, to make it bigger. So they took the house out. But that, I remember, I was 5-ish, by the time. And I remember I was so proud of myself, I could count, I could count to 10. But I would start at the bottom, it had stairs. You walk in the front door, and to the left was the staircase that went straight up. And then it turned to the right, and you went up 3 more stairs, and then there's a landing, and then the rooms. There's 3 rooms up there. But I could only count to 10. So I remember going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I would never go any higher than that, unless it was nighttime, and then my dad would take me up, or my mom, somebody would take me upstairs and put me in my room. But my room was, you go up that landing and you turn to the right, and it's like you're heading towards the front of the house, because there's, I had 3 windows, like kind of like a bay window, but you know how it is in the older homes,
Yeah.
And it would have been the first bedroom on the left-hand side, but towards the front of the building. The only thing in there was my bed and a dresser. And I have to tell you, this room was probably 30 feet long by probably at least 15, 18 feet wide, and it had 14-foot ceilings. Okay? Mm-hmm. Only two things in there. My bed, again, two things in my bed. No closet, no armoire, nothing. And it had this really bad linoleum floor, that was all curled up on the edges, and it had some really weird paint, or I don't know, maybe it might have been wallpaper, but it was peely, and I can't tell you how many times I'd be woken up screaming my head off. Two things would happen. One, I felt like somebody was literally sat on top of me, was holding me down. And then my dresser, which wasn't a very big dresser, but it was at the foot of my bed by a window, would somehow get from that position 30 feet down to the other end, of where the windows were.
Oh, really? Well, now what about the I don't know, in the episode you talked about hearing footsteps.
Oh yeah, but this is you wanted me to start a little bit earlier.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
This is a complete different house. I just want to give
okay, go ahead, honey. Sorry.
Yeah, I want to give, this is what's been following, this stuff's been following me. Every house I've been into, I'll preface it by this. Every house I've been into then and now, especially now, has been haunted. Okay, or it has something weird going on.
Okay.
Except this, I can control this space. But anyways, so that was happening, and having an issue with my dad and my mom, getting beat up because I was scratching the linoleum floor. That was a piece of crap anyways, and I mean, this is, it was a big wooden dresser, and I'm only 5. How the heck can I push it that far? So that was that. And then we lived there, and I can't even tell you how long we lived there, but then we moved. I know it was 1967 because I started kindergarten then. Then we moved to Marion, where the story on Netflix takes place at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. And the house was built in 1864. A few decades later, I was so engrossed in that house, for the reasons which I'll share with everybody. I did some historical research on it. Mm-hmm. And the house had been built in 1864, and according to the city records, and the county plotting records, for it was a homestead, and there was 168 acres originally, and then this house, and the house had the first original house built in 1864. The original part of it had an add-on back in the late 1880s, early 1890s. They added another wing, is what happened. So it became an L, like an L-shaped, building. Mm-hmm. I guess they were trying to keep up with the Joneses. I don't know. But what had happened was, over the decades, the town of Marion expanded, obviously, because it's right next to Cedar Rapids, which is, one of Iowa's. This is in Iowa. Cedar Rapids is it's a very large metropolitan area, nothing like Chicago or anything, but for Iowa, it might as well be Chicago. So anyways, Marion expanded, but he's growing, everybody's having good growth, and everybody's moving, and then the last record that I saw was that the homestead went into default and was taken back by the bank. That happens a lot back in Iowa, even to this day. And then what they did was they sold to a developer who then divided it up, into plots. And then, so my neighborhood that grew up around the house that I lived in, was put on the land, that the house once owned. Mm-hmm. And there was all these beautiful tract homes from the 40s and 1950s. And then there was this ugly edifice, that I was living in. Mm-hmm. Because the guy at the time that my dad was working for, he was a junk dealer, a local junk dealer in town. He had a very successful business. But my dad got a job, so that's why we moved from Independence, where the other house was, to Marion. So my dad had his other job, not that it was any better, but, back at that time, money he was lucky if he was making $175 a week.
Yeah.
Back then. So it was cheap rent. But Henry Katz, the guy who owned it, he actually liked us and was allowing my dad to, fix the house up so make it a little bit more livable. Well, it was always in a state of disrepair, and nothing ever was really getting, fixed on it. But I knew at a very early onset that there was something off about that house. I mean, let's put it this way. Across the street, it was perfect for my mom, was St. Paul's Lutheran Church.
Uh-huh.
That's what I grew up with. If you want to, people always ask me, are you religious? What are you? I'm Catholic light. I'm Lutheran. And it was right across the street. That was perfect for my mom. And then on the same side of the street, but only half a block away, was Longfellow Elementary. So it was a perfect situation, idealistic. The Heidi store, Me Too, is not too far away. It's all within, easy walking distance. But when you're a kid, easy walking distance now was you might as well have been gigantic Great Plains, because you got little tiny legs, you can only go so far.
Yeah.
So early on, I remember, weird stuff happening. I mean, like I said, I don't remember the exact specific time that we moved in, and I can't even tell you, what I drove. I have no clue. But we moved in, and my bedroom was at the top of the stairs, the first door on the left, and there was 2 other bedrooms upstairs. And then the interior of the house was your classic, Victorian kind of, farmhouse, would be considered Victorian style. You walk in the front door, you have a parlor, you have a grand parlor, and then you had a smaller one. You could have been a women's parlor or a men's game room or whatever you want to call it. And it had pocket doors, right? That's what separated them. Well, anyways, every house we lived in, except the first one that I shared with you, that at least I don't remember, but every house since then, except today, I have always had the room that had the access door to the attic.
Oh.
And I'm telling you,
I bet that was scary.
You're a small kid, and you already feel there's something not right, going on, especially when nobody else is experiencing anything. Well, the other kids were being abused as well, but not as much as I was. I at one point, I used to believe that my dad, when he'd get angry at my sisters, he would beat me. Because he couldn't put himself to wail on him like he would a guy. So I was there.
Punching
I
bag.
was, I was his whipping post for them.
Yeah.
But anyways, so all this stuff was happening. I mean, my dad smoked, absolutely, right? My dad, years later, I found out he was a binge drinker. But 2 things that I smelled early on: really sour smell of really bad whiskey. That's like it soured.
Okay, wait a minute. You smelled this in the house? In the
Oh,
house.
yeah.
Okay, was your dad still alive?
Oh yeah. This is
Oh.
this is 1967. When I'm in kindergarten.
Okay.
And anyways, I want to give a progression of the stuff that I encountered. So first, it was that smell of really sour bad whiskey with that really sweet smell of pipe tobacco.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or cigar. My dad is a cigarette smoker. I've never seen him do a cigar, let alone a pipe. But no one else smelled that. Nobody. Okay. All right. That's kind of weird. And I remember it was my 6th birthday. They actually have a picture of me when I was 6. That they included on the show.
Oh, I have it.
Yeah, it's the one where I'm wearing that little zip up, yellow shirt looking thing. I was 6.
Wait a minute. No, the one I have the picture of the 6 kids, and then I have the one with you in between your 2 sisters. You have a jacket on.
Yeah, I was about the same age. I was about 6 there.
Okay.
Yeah, we were getting ready to go to Christmas Eve festivities at our church.
Okay.
Because my mother was in the choir, and my mother was so involved in that church. It was, oh my gosh.
Well, that's the one they showed on the episode.
Right. But anyways, I was 6, and it just seems like, not that I smelled it all the time, but it was just like, I smelled it most when I was taking a bath. I felt like I was being watched, and I'm looking around, and it's like, what? I'm 6 years old, and I'm like, well, what is, I'm just, I don't know how to explain it. So.
But were you afraid? Were you afraid?
Oh my God, yes.
You were afraid.
You know what I used to do? When that would happen, I would freak out, and I'd have a bubble bath, and I would go under the water and hold my breath till whatever it was left. I didn't want it to see me, and I'd make sure that the bubbles covered me.
Oh my God.
And so I learned how to hold my breath really well.
Oh, you poor
over time.
thing.
But anyways, and then some time goes by. Maybe I was about 8-ish. Up in bed, can't tell you how many times, the scene where they showed the door rattling, and the thing was moving, then it opened. Okay, that's the first fallacy, about my story. I never slept with my door closed. As a matter of fact, not only did I not sleep with it closed, the hall light was on outside, specifically. And although my parents, because they were paying utilities, never wanted it to be on, I would stay up super late. And then after I heard my dad snoring, I know both of them were asleep, so I turned the hall light back on. I would close my sister's doors so they couldn't see the light. Mm-hmm. Because I left it on because I wanted to see what the heck was causing those footsteps coming up the stairs late at night. There was 13 stairs, and this is really ironic. There was 13 stairs that went from the bottom up to, where my door was, 13 steps. And
13.
I'm counting. It probably, I'm not sure as far as what time at night, but I know it was really late because I would stay up really late. It was probably after 10, when my dad would fall asleep. I hear him snoring, and I'd shut up his door and turn the light on. Well, so I would count them, and every time it got to 13, it stopped, and it never moved. But it was heavy, like somebody, a good-sized person was walking up those steps.
Wow.
And Norene, what's strange about it is?
What?
Is that, sure, it's an old house, but not every single stair would creak.
Oh, yeah.
Only 3. And I knew exactly which ones they were.
Yeah.
But they would creak all the way up to the top of the landing.
Oh my God.
And and then by that time I got my head over, my blankets over my head, and I'm doing this, trying to see what the heck that was. Oh, and it was very important. I always made sure that my blankets were tucked in so tight.
Oh God.
I'm telling you. Okay.
Oh yeah, I understand that.
Right. And just especially in the bottom, and because then I had this old steel bed with the really flimsy box spring, and it just you inhale and it would go rock, it would creak, Well, so there was the footsteps. Then there was this on occasion. I'd be asleep, and all of a sudden, I start, I'm hearing the the bed, and then it's going, just like they showed on the show.
Oh my God.
But it was even faster, and I was so paranoid, I'd fly out of the bed, and it stopped. The second I was out, it just stopped.
Wow.
Wow. And a couple times, my dad, what the hell are you doing up there? Don't baby, come, Okay.
Oh.
So they show the kid, he gets under the nightstand.
Right, I showed that.
I didn't have nightstand. So what I would do, I would go out in the light into the hallway. First, getting to the door, and I remember not crossing out into the light. I remember holding onto my door jamb, leaning this way, and then leaning that way to see if whatever that was that kept coming up the stairs was out there. Then I would, sneak out, and I'd go up to the light, and I'd hold on to it because there was a pull chain, and I'd hold on to it.
Wow.
You know, right? Okay, and then this only happened occasionally during the, that would happen, the bed shaking. But the worst part was, remember I told you I'd have to have my blankets tucked in super tight?
Yeah.
Oh, at least 3 times, especially during the winter. My blankets got ripped off me, like ripped off and thrown,
Oh my.
by the door.
Wow.
Yeah. And I've shared this with my sisters, and
Okay, they ripped the blankets off you, but did they ever touch you?
Not in a horrendous way, like some people might be thinking, but I would get, like, it felt like this, and then it'd feel like this. Once in a while, I'd feel this, like somebody's patting my head.
Mm-hmm.
But the one time, though, I did feel like it's like someone just came in and just plopped down on me. Didn't even, not a buy your leave or nothing. Not like a slow, to where I could take the weight and just, like my older sister, need me in the gut or something.
So what did you do when this happened?
Well,
did you freeze?
Well, I couldn't move, that's for sure. And some people would call this sleep paralysis. Come to find out later on in life that there's a scientific studies on sleep paralysis that people, your body falls asleep. I mean, it literally, your brain turns off all non-necessary motor functions, muscle, to keep the internal organs, at their lowest response rate, but still keeping you alive, but also at the same time to immobilize you from acting out your dreams. Okay? So I do remember being awake and that plopping down, and I'm like, having a hard time breathing. I remember it's like I got the wind knocked out of me. But I remember I couldn't move. And you hear people who have said that they are experiencing that same issue, that their mind is fully awake. They know their brain's awake. They're looking around. They just can't move.
Well, so at this particular time, how old were you?
I was probably 8.
8, okay. And this was happening to you. Did you ever feel the need to say, why are you doing this? Why are you here?
Well, no, not at all.
Okay.
Because according to the Bible, according to what my mother would read to me all the time, that this stuff, is real and it will kill you.
Oh.
So if you don't think about it, it can't get you.
Okay.
That's how she used to handle it for me. But when I would still have all this stuff happening, she would get pretty angry. And I think the biggest reason is, and I was always told not to tell anybody, ever. Okay?
Now, who told you that? Who told you
my
that?
My mother did.
Your mother, okay.
Yeah, and the reason is she didn't want the scandal that it was going to cause in church. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, because she's in all these women's circles there. They did a really good service. They were very good for the community, and they did all these fundraisers and blah blah blah. And I just wish maybe a couple times they could have done a fundraiser for us. I can't tell you how many Christmases I had that all we had was a tree.
Oh, how sad. God,
well, I mean,
so
it is,
sad.
and or we would get some toys, and they were like hand-me-downs from the women's circles, the people in the church. I was grateful for those, but it's like, it's really sad when you're a little kid and you're, everybody else has brand new toys and you have somebody's, God knows how old it was,
Do you think your parents were really that poor, or they just didn't want to, the mother didn't want to spend any money?
No, they were pretty poor.
Oh, it's too bad.
We're talking, you name the assistance, we got it. From food stamps to government surplus, and I love going to pick up the government surplus days. When they tell you to go, and fortunately it was at our church across the street, so we didn't have to go too far. When they'd have the big army trucks, the big trailers, they'd pull in, and then they would, well, the thing was that we weren't the only ones in line. Let's put it that way. So that was a good thing. But we'd get the government, blocks of 5-pound blocks of cheese, powdered milk, powdered eggs, canned ham and beef, toilet paper, just stuff like that. Military, military surplus. And everybody's proud because you're standing in those lines. Nobody's talking to one another. Nobody has their head up. It's just like you go up and you get your stuff and you hurriedly run away. Yeah. But my mom, she couldn't cook with beans. You heard the term. They cook so bad they can burn water. That was my mom. But she made do with what she had because of the size of the family at the time. My mom didn't work. She was staying home, which that I'm actually kind of grateful for, but not really. Because I don't know what she would do during the day. Well, I do. She would be at the church most of the time when we were at school. And she was just assured that I had caused some kind of trouble and scandal, during the school time, and that she would always dread going to my conferences. Always.
That's too bad.
And they would, the teachers would tell her that I was very imaginative, and I had a very, very adult vocabulary, because my dad swore all the time. I guess if he did it, I could too, but not when you're in third grade. Just stuff like this. But this is what I lived in, and like I said, I had 5 sisters at the time, and at the time of this story, my younger sister, who at the time was my younger sister, but now I have a stepsister, a half sister that's younger than she is. When my dad got remarried, she was 3 years old in 1972 when our mother died on Thanksgiving, about 3 o'clock in the morning. And as a matter of fact, this is going to be her 46th anniversary, coming up on next Thursday. But anyways, when she stated on the show that she has no memory of her mom, she's telling the truth. She has bits and small flashes of our mother.
Was your mother mean to them as well?
She was pretty mean to my older sisters, absolutely. And then I had my 3 younger sisters, and I don't recall her being angry at my younger sisters, But but it was just, I always felt that it was just centered on me. So during the summer, when we're out of school, and if we weren't at church or at Bible school all summer long, it's just a pain. And then one year we got surprised, and I got to go do a school run. My elementary was doing a summer camp program. Oh, we got to go because A, it was free, and B, it wasn't vacation Bible school. I was thrilled to go do that. Well, at that time, I was 8.5, going on 9, and I had a lot of friends, but no one ever used to like coming over to my house. Nobody.
Oh, really?
And if they did, they would only stay outside.
What did they tell you? Why wouldn't they come in the house? What did they say to you?
Well, I found out later on that, every house has that haunted house on the block, on a particular block. Well, that happened to be ours. And what I didn't know was, until years later, is that that house sat empty for 20, maybe almost 30 years before we moved into it. And it had a reputation. Strange things happen. And this is what I found out from my friends. But even though they were pretty young at the time, I remember their parents, a lot of my friends' parents, wouldn't let me inside their house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
Oh.
Now, I had friends that would let me come in, absolutely. But there was other people who were, had older children who, they're on the block. You become friends with everybody on the block. But, they're the ones that, had experiences, with the house and, but no one ever told me anything, as far as what experience. Oh, no, we don't want you to know. Well, you can stay outside with your friend Harvey, I'm going, did they know about me? No, it's just because I was associated with the house that they didn't want their own kids going over to.
Oh my gosh.
I spent a lot of time with my friends. During the winter times, obviously, their parents would let me on their porch, or they'd let me go up there straight away to their son's, room or whatever to play. But then, as soon as the time was over, I was out of the house, But, it went on like that for years, and not really thinking too much into it, because I was a little kid at the time, because I had my own problems at home that I was dealing with. So I figured whatever little time that I could have to myself, I took advantage of it. Now, one thing that ended up happening is because, I needed some kind of coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
I used to run, some people say, oh, you're running with the wrong people. They're going to get you into trouble. Well, I had a buddy down the street that was at the end of my block. He was younger than I was, but, we were partners in crime together. We would go steal things, from grocery stores. We would take money out of the offering plates at the church. We would, do all kinds of bad stuff. Now, he came from a very abusive family. I can't tell you how many times I saw his dad just whang on him like there's nobody else's business. So this was our diversion. Our getting, doing something else that we could control. Well, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because my mother, talking about a control freak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Controlling me.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things they did not show on the film, on the movie, although I talked about it for 3.5 hours, and then they cut everything out that would have really made this something special as far as chronologically and stuff, because I know people who saw it, it was really good and well put together, but there's gaping, vast holes chronologically of events that occurred before, and in between when I was a kid and at the last, when you see me do what I did at the last thing, the last scene. But my mother, I could manipulate her. It would look like she was doing something really nice and special for me, but I knew deep down, and she would give me that look, just here's the example. When she would have her women's group over for whatever meeting they were having, she went all out. She had the crackers and the little, whatever she could get, she would make it look nice. Because I remember she would have this particular set of dishes that she was always proud of. She'd put these stuff on here for the ladies. I go, oh my God. I'm thinking to myself, ooh, they got food. It's just like, but I didn't ask that. I'd go up to my mom, and I would make sure my partner in crime came in with me, and I'd go up to my mom just as she's involved, and I'd go, Mom. And then she'd finally go, yes, dear.
Oh.
Said, can I get a quarter so I can go to Hy-Vee so I can buy some candy? And she goes, and I remember she'd look around and she'd look at her, look at the other ladies, who I don't think were minding any attention to her at all, but to my mom it meant everything. She'd go, okay, go get my purse.
Oh my God.
So, go get her purse, and she'd go, now, how much was that you wanted?
Oh.
And I'd go, just 25 cents. She goes, well, here, take this dime, because it won't hurt as bad.
Oh, what does that mean? She was going to beat you up?
Oh, absolutely. I knew that.
Oh.
That's exactly what happened.
Oh my God. You mean that when you came back after everybody left, she would beat you because you asked for money?
Yep.
Oh, no.
But I didn't care because, I could at least have money in my hand and actually go to the store and actually pay for something as opposed to stealing it. So, I knew. Even my friend would say, she's going to kill you. I'm going, well, yeah, but, I didn't care. Because I was embarrassing her. And she didn't want to be embarrassed in front of her, in front of the ladies from church.
Wow.
You know?
Well, so when did you? So this is the house that had the well. Okay.
Yep.
So.
Okay.
Okay. So let's get into the kids. The
Okay.
haunting.
Let's bring in the kids. Okay. So I'm going to back up. I think it was at least 1 year. When I was 7 was when I started having some strange occurrences. Now remember, I'd heard the footsteps first, and I would smell that. Well, at first I smelled this really sour whiskey and the smoke, and the heavy footsteps going up the stairs, and the bed shake, all that stuff. But when I was about 7, I think it was winter time, and we only had one heater in the house, and it was nothing like what we have today. It was just a centrally located stove that was run on city gas or whatever it was. And it was in our dining room. And then to get heat upstairs, because it's an old house, they would have, and I'm sure you've seen them, Norene, they had hole vents in the floors, that go upstairs. So it would be the ceiling where the stove was. You'd look up on the ceiling and there's a hole.
Oh, yeah.
They had a cast iron gate around it, right?
Yeah.
Just like a ring.
Yeah.
And then that's how the room got heated. And then if you walked into my mom and dad's bedroom, there was another one of those grates that went into my bedroom upstairs. But they always had their doors closed, so I hardly got any heat. So what I do on those really cold nights in Iowa, because it gets really cold during the winter, I would sleep down there, down in front of that stove. So at some point when I was around 7 years of age, now like I said, I have younger sisters. I remember somebody was going, Harvey, wake up, play with us. And I remember opening my eyes, and I think I was laying on my side, or I had my head turned. I don't know what it was, but I remember seeing these feet. I thought there were my 3 younger sisters, because that's about the right size, they would have been as far as age-wise. But I remember I didn't specifically look up, but it really looked like their feet were wet,
Really?
And yeah, and I'm going, what? Then I remember I closed my eyes, and then next time I woke in, I opened my eyes, there was nobody there. So I think I told myself, "Ooh, I'm dreaming," And then I remember I rolled the other way and then, went to sleep. So these kids, it's weird because even though I did draw them later on.
Can I show them the picture?
Yeah.
Okay, this is your drawing.
Right. I'm not saying they looked exactly like that. That's how I perceived them to look, because I only saw actually bits and pieces of them, like they're like from the knees down, the wetness of their feet, and I saw a little bit of cloth, like like pants or something, that was on one of them, and then other times I'd only see their hands, and one time, what I perceived as a older boy, I did remember kind of looking at him at a profile, his profile, and it was during the bright midday of summer, and it was right near that door that went down into our basement. But every once in a while, out of the blue, I remember eating dinner one night with the family, and in the show they make my mom, we did prayers, but my mom wasn't a Puritan. She was overly religious, yes, but she was not dressed. She did not act like the Puritan that they portrayed her. That's artistic liberty, and I don't know how many people out there noticed, or even Norene, didn't it look like it was the early turn of the 20th century?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I thought, oh, my God, Harvey's not that old.
No, I am not. But I mean, there's a reason, and I'll share that with everybody. But because my late 60s, up into the early 1970s, my mother was 6'1", and she was anomalous at that time, for a woman being that tall. I mean, she was gorgeous, They shared some pictures of her, but
Yeah.
I have some. My sister has some better pictures of her when she would dress up, and look really nice. She had natural auburn hair. She always looked great, But she also, back when I was a kid, what do they call that, Norene? Not the beehive look, but where the girls would bump their hair up, a little bit higher right here.
Well, that's kind of beehive, honey.
Well, I mean, it is, but a beehive's a beehive. But this was like they were like bumped their head up a little bit, and then they had the hair,
Was this in the 60s?
Yeah, the 60s,
Oh, yeah.
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 I mean,
Oh, yeah. Ratting was the thing.
Right. And she would, she was attractive. But anyways, she would, she always wanted to look good at all times. So as far as church, you saw that picture of me standing between the two girls, my two older sisters, and I'm wearing that little brown suit. That's how I had to dress for, it didn't matter what it was, Bible school, if it was Bible study class, or if it was a Sunday, it didn't matter. Or Christmas, or anything. That's how everybody dressed like that, everyone. And my mother, like I said, although we were pretty poor, and I remember a lot of the clothes were hand-me-downs given to me from, church members, their families, which was nice. But my mom would always make us, when it came to church, would make us all look impeccable, because that's just, well, everybody else was impeccably dressed back then, even the kids. But she made it a point to stress that, to hide, our lot in life, to hide our poorness, to hide me, as far as, she would pound it into me that I could never tell anybody any of this stuff. So
Did these kids, besides you hearing your name from them, did they try to talk with you? Did they talk to you?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I was just coming back up, coming back around to that. We were sitting at dinner one night where I started, and my family's talking, and I kept hearing, I'm looking around, and I hear giggling, other than my sisters, and I'm going, I remember I looked under the table, and my dad chicken winged me, jerked me back out, and he said, "What are you doing?" I'm going, I lied. I dropped my fork, and it was in my hand, But it was very persistent. And I do remember, I would sit by my father. He was at the head of the table, and then it was me, because he wanted it within easy, fork whipping distance.
Right.
To get me, just in case I got out of line. And then whatever sisters were sitting on, next to me. But I do remember one of my sisters having her hair pulled back, and my dad hit me because he said I did it.
You mean they pulled your sister's hair?
Well, somebody did. I didn't.
Oh, no kidding.
Maybe they got it stuck in the chair. I don't know. But all I remember is going, "Ow! Somebody's pulling my hair." And my dad's going, "Bam! Knock that shit off." Pardon my French.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's just stuff like that. And then it got to a point to where, remember I was telling you earlier about us being in the bath, and they would I feel like something was in there, and well, when I was just turned 9, I'm just gonna jump up a little bit. When I just turned 9, I remember I was taking a bath one evening and just sitting in there, and I don't know what I'm doing, just playing a toy. I don't know what I was doing, but in the bathroom on the window, there was a screen on it, and it was summertime. It was hot outside. This is, towards the back of the house, but there's a back porch that was added on to the house, I don't know, 30s, 40s. Anyways, which the window was directly above the outside, used to be the outside approach or entrance to our basement, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And, and then the porch was raised up, and then it had these old limestone stairs and limestone foundation, and this old creepy wooden door. that was there. But anyways, the screen window, unless you were an adult and you secured yourself and leaned way over to touch the window,
Yeah.
As an adult, you were doing pretty good, because otherwise you're going to drop about 10, 12 feet into that, into the stairs. So I'm taking a bath, and all of a sudden I hear it, I don't know, just think in your mind what it would sound like if you were raking nails down very slowly down a screen.
Really?
And did it 3 times. And then by that time I'm looking. Now I'm in I'm in an old clawfoot bathtub, and full of, I've had like 10,000 gallons of water in it. I can't remember, but a lot of water when I was a kid. And I remember I scooped myself up to the far end where the nozzle of the where the tub was, and then right there was the toilet, and then the sink, and then the window was there. And I said, "Dad?" No. Nobody. No, somebody could have been pranking me, absolutely. But I know it wasn't one of my sisters, because there's no way my oldest sister could have reached that without falling to her death or getting hurt real bad.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So as I'm looking at it, it happens again, but this time, because it was an old screen, I actually saw it. It was dark on the porch, but it looked like it bowed in down, like whatever it was pushed into it, and it was like that all the way down.
Wow.
Right? And by that time, I was out of the tub. I don't remember anything other than I was butt naked, run through my mom's, bedroom, because that's, was one of the ways to get there. And I remember I got her bed wet or something. I can't remember. And I'm like rolling around on the living room floor and just screaming my head off.
Wow.
And that scene where you see my mom on the show, she, I went to her for comfort. No, I did not, because I knew not to do that.
Wow.
Well, that particular night, when she said, "Get back in the bath, I got to dry you up." "Oh, you got my bed wet." So she slapped me, while she was, going into the bathroom, because I got part of her bed wet, and she's making me clean up the water and all that stuff. And then I told her what happened, and I'm crying my eyes out. And she goes over there to the window, and she goes, "There's nobody there."
Yeah.
So
Now,
after I got dressed and dried off, as we're walking through her bedroom again, she reaches over in her nightstand, she picks up her Bible. It was a King James. Well-worn, it's all tabbed out.
Yeah.
And all worn leather. And as she goes, "Go out the door," through those pocket doors. And just as I crossed the thing, something told me to flinch. So I did. And she was already in the process of bashing me in the back of the head, and it propelled me forward into the floor in the living room.
Oh my gosh. Holy
Yeah.
cow.
And then
Did
she hit me
these
a couple more
kids
times.
did these kids have any empathy for you? Did they ever say anything
Well,
to brighten your day or to make you feel better?
Well, this is why I kept hearing, because I had nobody to play with. It was, my sisters wouldn't play with me ever, and it was just me. Me and my vivid imagination with my invisible friends. So in what limited vocabulary they had or would use with me, I think they just kept it very simple, and they made it sound very playful. But here's one of the most terrifying parts, and they show it on the show, where my mom, we had an indoor entrance, to the basement, and I remember it. The door, it's an old door. It had a black porcelain handle on it, knob, and it was a black frame with white. There was 4 white panels. To this day I remember it. And up above there was a really thick, latch hook, with a hook and an eye.
Yeah.
That we kept the door locked with, but it was way up high. None of my sisters or myself, even though I'm 6'5", I could reach it now, but I couldn't back then. So it got to a point, I was like, I guess I was getting too big for my mom for her to be constantly beating me, physically.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad at the time, he was a truck driver and he was gone most of the time, but when I did something really bad, I don't know what it was, of course, it got to a point to where she said, you just wait till your father gets home.
Wow.
But,
So, so what did these kids do for you? I mean, did you actually play with them at one point?
No. I was scared to death of them because I didn't understand what exactly that was because I'd been scared to death of everything else. So what was happening was like at nighttime. See, it used to be they would hang around close to the entrances to the basement, and then at one point, in the show, they show the girl standing in the doorway of my room. She was not standing in the doorway. She was standing right at the foot of my bed.
Oh.
And I know it was not one of my sisters. And she looked, and I remember it was during, I think it was during like late fall, early winter, but it was cold.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked wet. Now she's being backlit from the light coming in from, cascading in from the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
So she was backlit, so I really couldn't see who it was. It was just like this outline of a little girl.
Uh-huh.
But I could see steam rolling off of her.
Oh, really?
Like a person who's wet and get out, it's cold, they steam, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so
she was by herself, even though there was three of them.
Right.
At one time, were the three ever together at once?
Yes, on several times actually, but that's what I was getting to now was when my mother would, throwing me into the top stairs of the basement through the inside connection to our basement.
Okay, had you ever gone down into that basement before?
No, not willingly. I mean, I never played down there because we couldn't. Because it was a very old, decrepit basement, and plus it had this. Now I do know for a fact I had been down, once or twice with my dad downstairs, putting stuff, whatever. But there was two sections of the basement. There was the cold, dark well area, and then there was the side of it that had a wall made out of limestone with a little archway through it.
I'm showing them the picture of the well that you sketched.
Right. And but there's never water in the well, at least none that I ever saw. I mean, I remember my dad would, have a flashlight and he says, "Oh, there's nothing down there." There was like old boards and like old Westy can, but there's never water down there, ever. Okay? So the only time that we were told, don't go down here, you're going to get hurt. My dad, you're going to fall down the well and you're going to become a ghost. That's the way my dad handled that stuff. Because it was probably, over 10 feet deep. And plus with all those obstructions in there, a person would fall into it and get hurt.
Yeah.
And it did have a cover on it. Okay?
Oh, okay.
But it was an old, decrepit piece of tin hatch cover, that had holes in it because it had rusted out. And, So, but anyways, so the times when my mother would shove me into the top of the stairwell from the inside entrance to the basement, I'm pounding on the door, because my mom would lock in the show. They made her look like she was padlocking me in. They didn't have a padlock. Artistic liberty there, I guess they really wanted to emphasize, the whole isolation thing and controlling me, and by really ramming it home with that big heavy master lock. We couldn't afford one. Okay? Yeah. So anyways, I can't stand the dark. It took me a long time, many years, if not a couple decades, to get over being afraid of the dark. And I'm relieved, yes, but just when I was retelling the story when we were down in Arcadia filming, I had to stop several times because the brought back emotions and the grief and
wow.
the sensations of what I was getting goose flesh, and that's a whole other story. What happened at that house while we were filming? That could be a story all in itself.
Wait a minute. What house were you filming at?
We were at this. I don't know. I can't remember the name of the house, but it's an old historic house in Arcadia, which is kind of like my situation. It was an old Victorian, but this one was an actual mansion compared to an old, Victorian era, farmhouse. That was nestled. That exact same thing. That the neighborhood grew up on its original lands, because it had been. I do know that it had been a fruit and nut, farm, down in Arcadia, down in Southern California, and they did really well. They prospered really well, and right across, like less than 200 yards away, was a fire station. That several times during filming they had a call, so they turned the sirens on, so we couldn't film. Yeah. When we had to reset. But yeah, so the opening scene, you see the people coming into the room. That's part of the old mansion that we were in.
So you were actually filming. So all that part when they were dressed like from Victorian era or the early 1800s, they were actually in that mansion filming this, or was that a set?
No, they ended up doing the B-reels or the actual reenactments. They were in Prague, Czechoslovakia.
What?
Yeah, well, there's a reason for it. According to the director, who directed, my part, he directed all of them. But when I said, I think what happened was I butt dialed him by accident one day when I was at work, because he gave me all of his contact information. And when I finally realized, he goes, hello, hello, hello. And I'm going, hello. And he goes, this is Jordan Roberts. That's his name, director Jordan Roberts. But anyways, he said, I said, oh my God, I said, I'm so sorry. I think I butt dialed you. And he says, well, while you're on the phone, do you have any questions? So, I was kind of curious as to when, the series was going to come out. I know it's taking some time, and, he says, it's still taking some time, but right now we're doing the reenactments. And I said, oh, are you in Marion, Iowa? And he goes, no, we are not. We are in Prague, Czechoslovakia. And I went, but my story took place in Marion, Iowa. Then he said, very calmly, have you ever tried to get a filming permit for a major production in Marion, Iowa?
Oh, really?
And I went, no. Do you have to do that? He goes, absolutely. Major productions? Absolutely. And he said they just charge the fees like you would not believe. So he said it was cheaper to bring the entire production crew, the second production, over to Prague, Czechoslovakia, and set up and shoot everything there because Prague has many centuries of history there. So it was emulating many different time periods with many different time period buildings. And they happened to find something that he thought was worthy of my description of my old house, decrepit house in Marion, Iowa, which is no longer there. It's weird. You can go on Google Earth and you punch in 2706 10th Avenue, Marion, Iowa, and it'll show you where it used to be. It's in between two houses. Used to be in between two houses, and it doesn't look like anything could fit there now. But I think what happened was that the neighbors on either side, I think they bought a half of that property each, and then they expanded their own, properties by putting in bigger garages and stuff. But every time I go to Iowa, I always make a pilgrimage to go there to that spot, and I stand in the approximate area where the well had been in the basement.
Damn.
And I stare, and I'm looking across the street, and I'm looking at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. I'm just trying to get a feel to see if things are not, and I've never felt anything more other than having memories.
Can I ask you, let's see, where is this? Here. Now, what about this scene where you have a little figure and you put it on the well? Did that really happen?
Okay, all right, okay. So the doll, I've had people from all over the world have contacted me, and that was one of the big things that they pointed out, and they want to know about if the doll's real. And absolutely, the doll is real. I used to dig, one of my pastimes to take frustration out, and I think it was my anger management back then, I would dig holes in our backyard. And I think I found an old burn pile, from days gone by, because I was finding old antique marbles and inkwell bottels and little prescription, just a treasure trove of stuff. And the deeper I dug, the more cooler stuff I found. And then one day, it was during the summer, I was down about 4 feet, and my dad didn't seem to care that I was digging there, because at least they knew where I was and I wasn't in trouble, And plus, also, after the dig, I would fill it in,
Yeah.
So, anyways, I found this coming out of the side of the wall, of the pit. It looked like a little tiny hand, a porcelain little tiny hand. Well, it was, and I dug it out, and it was attached to a doll. It was about this big.
Yeah.
Now, the doll they used is a pretty good likeness, but it had a wooden body, or at least what I thought was wood, and the arms and the legs were, from like the elbow and the knee down were the porcelain parts, along with the head, and the legs were tied on with like this weird looking kind of cord, and the shoulder, the shoulders, it was all tied together. It had been burnt. It takes a lot of heat to melt porcelain. The wood was charred pretty good. Obviously, I don't think it ever had any hair, but it had some kind of clothing on it, because the one pattern of something was burnt into the back, would have been the back of this thing. So I had a box of stuff that, I had a shoe box that I would put all my treasures that I found in. Now, when I found it, I cleaned it up a little bit, I put it in the box, I shoved it under my bed, I forgot about it. Several months, if not a year, probably a year passed. Not even thinking about it twice. So, and at that time, I hadn't, had really, it was weird, because my experiences, it would be like waves, like this. It'd be, oh my God, and then like, oh, okay, it's not too bad. Oh my God, it just kept going like that.
All right, I need to ask you a question.
Yes.
With that little figure, is that what you did? You put it on the well and they would take it?
Well, that's another artistic liberty, and I was getting to that. I just like putting in more information, just so people know exactly. This is why they took the artistic. No, so when something had this realization, I didn't know what I was thinking about, but at some point, I remember I opened the box and I'm looking through my stuff, and I had this doll, and I'm going, huh. And I went, I wonder. I remember I said out loud, I wonder. So I went to the basement through the outside of the back porch, the outside entrance where the light side of the basement was. And I walked in there, and there's only one light bulb, and you had turned on the chain, and then at an oblique left was the archway that went into the dark side where the well was. Sister, never went in there. I took that doll, though, and I put it right in between that doorway. I had it setting up, looking into that blackness. And that's where I left it. I never put it on the well.
Okay.
Nope, didn't do that. I just set it there. Now, a couple of weeks go by, then I remembered it, and I went back down, and I thought it was still going to be there, but it was gone.
Oh.
Okay? Totally nowhere, and I'm not going to go looking around in the dark side of the basement where it was. So I had asked my older sisters, and they're like, what are you talking, what doll? Because I don't recall ever showing them, but I wanted to make sure. My younger sisters, it was one of my younger sisters, but why would a 4-year-old, or a 3-year-old, a 6, a 4, and a 3, why would either one of those go down that basement? Right?
Yeah.
Because it couldn't. Anyways, it was gone. But shortly after that, when
Yeah.
Well, I was having a particular bad month with all the spirits or whatever it was in my house. And at one point, my mom was really just really wanging on me and harping on me and, throwing me into that. And then she threw me in for she'd only have me in no more than 5-10 minutes. But one time I spent a long time. It had to be over a half hour. And I don't know if you can see this, but right there, you see how my knuckles?
Yeah.
Right here?
Yeah. Oh, here.
See
Yeah.
you see where the skin pattern's missing?
Oh, yeah. Your lines. There's no lines there.
Right. The same way on this one. Because I would pound on that door so hard, it ended up inadvertently, it took away, I'm pretty sure that's why it's no longer there. I mean, my hands would bleed.
Oh, wow.
Especially being in there that long. And I do remember a couple times my sister Julie, and we talked about this, during the filming, the 3.5 hours. She said on that day, I tried to bust me out of there. She said that Mom caught her. Because I remember she said she had a stick or something and she was trying to poke up to get the latch off so she could open the door and free me. Because, I'm pounding on that door and I'm like, hysterical. And that's when, I heard what sounded like somebody getting out of a bathtub 3 times. Okay?
Wow.
And then I'm walking, and I'm like pounding. I mean, I'm just going crazy. And at one point, I think it was in between me, because I was taking a breath to yell even more. I heard what sounded to me like they said, "Don't worry about your mother."
But your mother was still alive.
When my mom was still alive.
Really?
Right?
Did you ask them, why are you saying that?
No. Norene, I'm like 9 at the time. I'm not going to turn up because I heard them. It felt like they were coming up the stairs.
Oh.
So just as I'm pounding my last, this is it. What was weird was, when they showed the scene where there was fog.
Uh-huh.
Well, something strange happened kind of like that, but I wouldn't say exactly like that. As a matter of fact, everything went blank. And I do have a memory and a feeling that these 3 kids, although I remember I told the director they're really fuzzy, that's why I really couldn't make out any pertinent detail. And the pictures that you see, the one thing that really stood out on all 3 of them was the eyes.
Yeah, what's with the eyes?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how I just saw most of the eyes because they were most of the time in, backlit or in deep dark recesses, but it was the eyes. It's like they were glowing like white,
Wow.
But anyways, they said this, and I felt like I must have blacked out. And I have a vague memory of being with some kids that I didn't know, but nothing like what you saw, in the film. They took some artistic liberty there. Maybe I was dreaming, I don't know. But the next thing I wake up and I'm on our couch and I got Band-Aids and gauze on my hands. And my mom was washing the blood off me, and she was telling Bible verses to me, And at that point, I felt like I didn't have to worry about her anymore. Not. I mean, that the kids killed your mother? How is that even possible? No, I never said that. I never even implied that. To me, I think it was more of a metaphor saying, don't worry about your mother. Get on with your life. Take care of yourself. That's how I interpreted it.
How soon after? How many years after did she die?
Actually, she died within months.
Within months of your ninth birthday?
Yeah, I was 9.5 at the time, and then I was 9.5, and then that June, I turned 10, and it was 1972, and then my mom on Thanksgiving early morning.
On
I have her
Thanksgiving?
death certificate, but she just died, and she had never had any diagnosis with anything. You know, she used to be, as far as I'm concerned, was healthy as an ox. You know, and she just died. Just died.
Did they do an
And-
autopsy? Did they do an autopsy?
Oh yeah, they did, and they found out that she died from an aneurysm right there.
Wow.
So they said she died really quickly, but the weird thing is when, you know, on the show they show, you know, the priest did come to my house, absolutely, him and his wife. That's all true, because they just lived across the street. My dad, you know, was there. Looked like he was comforting me, and was not. That's not what happened. See, they make it look like I saw my mom's ghost later.
Yeah, they did.
I saw her the night she died.
Oh, you did. Did she say anything to you?
Well, okay, so you see in the show, you
Yeah.
see her coming downstairs. She
Right.
never came downstairs.
And
Okay.
so what was the point? They had her coming down the stairs and then going to a baby. Was that supposed to be you?
Well, no, and that's another thing. I'm not sure. So let me tell you what really happened,
Okay.
and then we can explore that. Okay, so like I said, you know, it was Thanksgiving. I had fallen asleep on the floor, and that was a big taboo thing to do. You know, Mom, don't ever have me wake you up. I'll kill you, and you'll never, you know. So we were watching Johnny Carson. I don't know what we were watching, you know, but it's one of those old shows. And I fell asleep. Now, before I did, I remember looking around. My sisters were doing whatever they're doing. My dad was in his black lounge chair. My mom was wearing this her night robe thing, and, you know, being whatever, sitting on her chair, watching TV. And the next thing I know, I open my eyes, and the lights are off, but the TV's still going. And I remember rolling over, and I think it was Johnny Carson, I think. You know, or Dick Cavett. It's one of those two. And I'm looking around, and I set up a little bit, you know, because I was laying flat on my back, and I went up my arms, and my sisters are not there, my dad's not there, but my mom moved from her lounge chair to my dad's chair. And I went, oh my God, it was, you know, the last person I wanted to see was my mom. You know, like I know it's going to, so I went to jump up to get up. I'm going to bed. She got out of the chair and she laid right down next to me, and she put her arm on me, around me.
Really?
And it was being very nice. And I'm like, she's doing this because she's going to choke me out. I know I'm dead. You know, I didn't know how to act. You know, she had never showed me that kind of attention. Ever.
Wow.
At least not that I remember. You know.
Wow.
And she put her arm around me and she says, don't worry about it. She said, you know, just, you can go back to sleep. Okay. I went back to sleep. Next thing I remember, I hear this rumbling. And I woke up and I'm like, what? And it's this, but it was muffled, but it was this rumbling, like something was banging.
Uh-huh.
And I was in our front room, and I'm laying with my head to the TV, my feet straight where my dad's chair was, you know, like almost in the middle of the room. And to my left was our bay window, and there was a clock on the wall. I remember I turned and I looked at the clock, and it said about, if I remember, maybe 3:05. And I remember I'm hearing this banging and this rattling, and I remember I turned the opposite way. And now here's something. Remember I said earlier that the house had pocket doors. Well, I never knew anything about pocket doors back in those days because they never used them. The opening was always open, but what happened was that our landlord bought this accordion style, like cardboard plastic thing that they would use, you know, as their door. But when I heard this rumbling, that wasn't there, and I watched the doors open like this, and what was happening was the counterweights rumbling back and forth, you know, in the wall, like they would have.
Oh, yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
So so all of a sudden I'm looking, and I'm going, I'm just laying there, and I'm going, what the heck, and I saw my mom. She just came out of the blackness of the room, and immediately I'm looking at her, and I'm going, there's something different, and she was wearing this super white, very clingy, long sleeve, past her fingers, kind of, but like in a, kind of a taper like this, very tight around her arms, and she had this scoop neck, and she had this, something was lit around her neck. I don't know what that was. And she walked out, and she was looking straight ahead, and as she walked straight ahead, I was only 5 feet away from that door, and I'm getting ready to scrunch my legs up, and all of a sudden she stops right at my side, still looking straight ahead. She lifts one of her legs, and she steps over me. Now, the dress part of this, the skirt part, was this billowy, floor-length, super long train, okay? And she steps over me, and immediately I'm freezing from my collarbone down to my knees. Just like absolute, like a blast of sub-zero weather. And as she's passing me, I'm like this, and I'm going, why is this so cold? And she's still looking straight ahead, but she's moving very slow. And I remember I looked down, something like that, I would have felt that, the dress, the nape of the dress on my body, something, some pressure. I felt nothing.
Wow.
And what it was weird was, it looked like, when it hit me, it looked like smoke rolling through a hill. And then it re-solidified as she passed me.
Wow.
So she walks over, and I'm like, I'm still thinking, now that was like, oh my God, but I was more concerned, where the hell did she get that dress? Does Dad know about this? That's what I was more concerned about, the dress and how beautiful it was. And she goes over to a crib that was there. Absolutely, there was a crib in the room, but it was in the corner by the windows. And she bends down and she picks up this bundle, and I heard like a little baby go, and I saw the arm kind of come out and it's moving like this. And then I saw my mom, she put it back in and swallowed it more. She bent down and kissed it on the head. And she said, I'll be with you forever. Okay?
Did she ever have a miscarriage?
Don't know. If she did, she never shared that with me or anybody else.
She might have had a baby that died or a miscarriage that you don't know about.
Yeah, possibly. But anyway, she put it down, and I still kind of heard it. And then she turned, and I'm still laying there like looking at, God, look at that. I'm not thinking that there's a baby, because the last thing, the other thing I knew that was in there, see, that used to be my sister, my youngest sister Paula's bed at the time, but she was 3 years old, and she was upstairs, living upstairs with my sisters. But she picked this baby up, but in that crib, that's where we kept spare blankets and pillows. Right?
Yeah, interesting.
So, not thinking about that yet. Anyways,
wow.
She's walking back, and she gets to me, and this time she stopped, looked down real slow, and I'm going, like I knew like I needed to get out of there. And then she goes just like this. She put her finger up, she goes, shh, and she does this.
Wow.
Like, and then she stepped over me again, the same sensation, the instant freezing cold, and the dress billowing like smoke, and then rejoining itself.
Wow.
She walks in the room, and the door closes, like on Star Trek,
Oh.
And then, and then the next thing I know, I fell asleep, but the next thing I remember is my dad's waking me up. He's slapping the bejesus out of me, but somehow I went from in the living room to laying in front of the stove. But somehow, I had been in my clothes prior, but somehow I had went upstairs and got my pajamas on and grabbed all my pillows and blankets and came downstairs and made a little nice nest, cozy nest for me there in front of the stove. I don't remember doing any of that. Wow. But my dad was beating me awake is what he's doing, because he wanted me to get out of the way for the rescue people.
Wow.
And when I said, well, what's wrong, dude? I mean, I thought there was a, I don't know, weird tornado or something during Thanksgiving. I don't know. I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And then I saw our pastor come in, and his wife came in, and then a couple of policemen and a couple of firemen, and then the ambulance drivers came in. And they had the gurney and all that stuff. And then Mrs. Huber, the pastor's wife, was huddling all the little kids, including myself, over on the couch where my mom used to sit, keeping us out of the way, and she's singing to us some hymn, I don't even know what that was, or trying to keep us quiet, and the pastor was in there with my dad, and my two older sisters were in the room, and I heard one of my sisters say, Dad, she's so cold, black out, Mommy, and I'm, what's going on? And Mrs. Huber goes, shh, don't be disrespectful, don't talk. I'm like, well, I just saw her,
Wow.
And then I'm standing on the couch, and I walked over, and I'm looking down at the crib, and I'm going, wait a minute, where's that baby at? And I'm taking stuff out, the blankets and pillows, and I'm looking at and Miss Huber, what are you doing? She says, I'm looking for the baby.
Wow.
And she's like, what?
Wow.
So
Awesome.
then she called for her husband, and he came out, and he says, what's going on? And I says, well, I don't know. I just saw my mom not too long ago. She was wearing this long white, and he goes like this, we don't speak ill.
Oh.
Right? And at that time, they had opened the doors, and my sisters are crying, and they're wheeling her out, and they went to put the gurney up, and my mom's arm literally fell out. And I remember the guy picked it up like this, like he didn't want to touch it,
and then
and he put it on top of her and tucked the blanket, but they didn't. They showed their on the show her covering her head. They didn't do that. They just tucked her back in and wheeled her out.
But she had passed.
Oh yeah, she had passed, absolutely. And according to the death certificate, she had passed somewhere between 3:10 and 3:25 in the morning of Thanksgiving, 1972. So
boy.
she must have been already out of her body. Like I said, I remember looking. It was like 3:05, 3:10 at the clock. That was on the wall. I could tell time back then. I was 10 years old.
Yeah. Oh.
And and so anyways, the how they portrayed her was I was told that they had filmed what I had said, what I had described. But see, originally we were told that the series was going to be six episodes that were 55 minutes each. That would have been more than enough time to do my story justice, And but as time was coming, and they said it filmed great in the special effects. You would have really loved the special effects. They're awesome, the billowing, just everything you said. But he says when push came to shove, the editor had to, he says, well, now they're only going to be 30-minute shows. So they had to chop everything out. And in order for them to do my mom's sequence, the vision that I had, they needed to shorten it considerably. So that's why they have her coming downstairs and then passing me. First they showed me laying on the couch. I was laying on the floor. But I was laying on the couch in the show. And then they have her coming down there, so she did not come down the stairs. She came out of her bedroom on the first floor. And they showed picking the baby up. That was all true. It was kind of weird because, that would look more like a swinging bassinet crib as opposed to the actual crib that we had. It was decrepit, but it was a crib. And I don't remember if the baby had hair at all, but, that one looked like, you could tell it was a doll, But anyways, there was that. And
Harvey, don't you think it's kind of strange that you guys were all grown up and not grown up, but you weren't babies anymore, that there was a crib still in the house?
Well, yeah, It is true, but I think it was more for the storage capacity of it. Because there's one thing my mom hated. Although we might have been poor, at least she kept a really tidy house. Because I remember being very young, 5, and vacuuming, making my bed. Everything had to be, clean. We might have been poor, but we weren't going to be dirty poor. So I think that was there just for 2 reasons. It was, for storage. And the second is, although it was a big house, we really didn't have any place to store it, to put it. And there's no way she was going to put it down in the basement. We didn't have a garage.
I don't know. I still think... have you ever tried to contact your mother or your father and find out? No, you don't want to, huh?
No, don't care. But I will tell you something that I also shared on the show that they never talked about was a dream sequence that I had of my mom. Because what people don't know is that my mom haunted me from the time we left that house in 1974 until I was about 22 years of age. It was almost a nightly occurrence, and it would always be the same dream. How they tell about people have the same reoccurring dream all the time, and sometimes little things are different, but this was never different. It was always the same. So what it was is my mother is chasing me around the house, trying to hit me with the Bible, and I'm trying to, fruitlessly dodge those hits. And plus, also, she was a weapon of the day person. Whoever she could get her hand on, which was close, she would smack me with it.
Uh-huh.
So, her running around, she never said a word to me, just chasing me around. And it was like one of those, I think I'm away from her, and then I open another door, there she is. I had those dreams for the longest time, and then, and I would share, the older I got, became an adult, I became a lot closer to my sisters than I was when I was a kid. So we started sharing a lot of, information and stories. And the one thing I would share the most was my paranormal encounters, trying to explain to them. And my oldest sister, the reason why I had her on the show with me was for validation.
Oh, yeah.
Because she was ground zero. She saw all this crap happening to me, especially how, my mother treated me so much different than everybody else. And she knew that, I couldn't say anything. Not that she really understood what was going on with me at the time, but whatever it was a secret that I couldn't tell anybody. And they would never tell my siblings because they didn't want them to know.
Yeah, wow.
So I was just a weird oddball kid. And when I was 9, I didn't want to be around anymore.
Oh, that's too bad.
I was tired of it. I couldn't take it anymore.
We have a couple of questions. Just a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Everybody in the chat room is saying that they're going over to watch the episode, and some have already seen it, and they said it was awesome. They really enjoyed it. It was a good episode.
Well, it was. I mean, they did it really well. And as a matter of fact, the director was very, very kind and, very helpful. And he kept asking, I hope you do. I said, I know there's a lot of information. I want to do this right for you. Because he says, not only is it a story, but he says, out of other stories that was there, he says, yours actually has hope for other people. And this story has resonated with so many different people from, just literally around the world, since this aired October 19th. I've been inundated, Norene, with not only people, wanting to ask questions about the show,
yeah,
but also about, if I can help them, contact their past loved ones. And I try to, what I've been doing is, when I first started, I was trying to get everybody, but that's just, it's hopeless. I can't do that. I got like 1,000 plus new Facebook friends waiting for me to confirm them,
Wow.
And I like to vet all of my people that I associate with on Facebook, but it's just like I can't do all that. And but so what I've been doing is I'm reading as many of the emails and messages that I can get to, there's been, several that have popped up, that I've been able to do either via email or just a real quick, chat on Messenger, with them. And I seem to be able to help them, whatever it is that they're missing. I can help get that information to them, and so far it's been really successful, helping people. But it's just, Norene, I'm inundated, and it's, I've never complained about people, well, how do you do so many readings and not be tired and drained? And I've never had to worry about that, because I'm very good at protecting my own energy, and I'm in control how much it gets drained. But it's just the overwhelming of, it's like sudden fame, I guess you call it that.
Yeah, if you get on TV, you get noticed.
Well, the first time I was on TV was in 2012 on the Bio channel. My ghost started caught on camera, and that was I was on it because it was part of a story that one of my buddies, Rob Garcia of Elite Paranormal in Kansas City, it was his story. I just help him. I'm just a tool, Norene, when I help other investigators. It was his story. And then the second time I was on TV was just last year on a haunting. TLC's A Haunting. It was an actual story that I submitted for one of my clients from Pacifica. And that was a bizarre thing when that all came down. It'd take about another hour just to explain what happened there. So, you can have your viewers, if you want, look it up. It's season 9, episode 12, called Ghostly Voices on a Haunting. It had let's just put it this way, a huge, very religious skeptic, more or less lost his world, what he knew and thought was true, to him. Because he's the one that brought this thing home. And it affected his family. I mean, he's a police officer, and for 5 days he was running around the house trying to protect his family. Most of the times he's running around the house with his loaded gun.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
Yelling and screaming at the top of his lungs that he was, you better be dead already, because if you ain't, I'm an off-duty police officer, and stop it. He even had local police from Pacifica, come and babysit his house, just to make sure that he wasn't going crazy. That the kids who we thought, the teenagers down the street, were messing around with him in his property, but nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had some mild notoriety with that, but nothing like this. And I think it's because Netflix has over 147 million worldwide subscribers.
That many? Wow.
Yeah, and growing.
I'm one. I love Netflix.
I as well, but that's worldwide. So I've done readings for people in Johannesburg, South Africa, Oslo, Norway, Amsterdam, UK, France, Spain,
Damn.
South America, like Brazil, Portugal, and Uruguay, Central America, Canada, all over the United States. I'm just like,
Wow.
I want to help as many people as possible, but I have to come up with a better way of maybe being a little bit more picky.
Yeah.
Because if I could do everybody, if I was a computer program to where I could reach everybody at the same time, absolutely, I would do that in a heartbeat. But everybody is individual in their hardships, or their hardships, and they're unique.
Yeah.
So just bear with me, everybody, if that's something you want to do.
Okay, there was just a couple of questions, because I think they're all going to see that Netflix or have seen it, that episode.
Okay.
Now earlier, Cassandra 50 said her question was, and it was already answered. did they ever get a diagnosis what she died from? And she said sudden heart attack, but it wasn't a heart attack.
No, no, it was not a heart attack. It was a blood clot that had been in her brain for a while, and it caused, the hematoma back of her, the swelling of the vessel that caused the aneurysm, then it just burst up like a balloon.
And Sarah Burns, having this gift, does it take a toll on you emotionally or physically?
Well, in hindsight, no. Not like some people claim it does, because I've been doing it for so long. I'm just sort of used to the regimen of what I need to do and how to prepare myself. And, I do so many readings, per month. But they don't affect me because I can separate the energy that I need at the time from, what I have, which is my own. And it's almost like when I connect with somebody, it's almost like biofeedback. It's more or less I'm using, because I'm connected with their energy as opposed to me giving them my energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit easier for me, to handle volumes. Like when I do conferences, the most I've done in one day was 22 readings. Between being guest speaker and they're short readings, mind you. I give them like the cliff notes of of an answer, and if they want anything longer, then I always request for them to get with me privately and have a private reading done. And this way we can spend more quality time and get a little bit more in depth, as opposed to what they need.
Right.
And the past several days, I've been having people from around the world.
Uh-huh.
And all the people that I've done readings for so far do testimonials. They've been putting them on all three of my pages, for my paranormal viewer Harvey Althaus, where most of them are, and then my regular homepage, and the paranormal exchange as well. They've been posting them,
Wow.
giving their experience with the reading that they've had with me. So far, everybody's been very humbled. It's been a very humbling experience for not only them, but, myself as well, that I've been able to be very direct and very accurate as far as, the people that, the spirit energies of the people that they want me to get in contact with. And it's weird. I'm not a switchboard operator, think of Lily Tomlin,
Yeah.
Being on Laughing and, being the switchboard operator and hooking people together.
Yeah.
It's not like for me. It doesn't work like that. It never has. Because I never considered myself a medium. But when I do readings for people, a lot of times this visions and words and whatever, they just keep reoccurring. So at some point I have to stop, and say, okay, I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know if it means anything to you, but it's been bugging the crap out of me since we've been doing this reading. So I say blah. Oh. And people are like, oh my God, that's my dear Aunt Jenny, or oh, it's my father, whoever.
Wow, that's awesome. Wow, Harvey.
Well, I know, but it doesn't happen all the time like that. It's not like I can, just say I'm a medium and, I'm Chip Coffee or, James Van Paul, whoever. I don't, it doesn't work like that for me. What I specialize in is I help people learn from their past mistakes, why they feel they're, and I help identify their blocks in the present. Now, I don't do futures because things change every second. But if it's something immediate that I can, it's very palatable to me, then I'll let somebody, I'll tell somebody about it. That, hey, I don't know if you know about this or you were. 9 out of 10 times, like I'll say, if someone's telling me that you're going to get that promotion, and, oh my God, I've been waiting for that promotion for 6 months, without me knowing. And then they end up getting it because I always get calls later. Oh my God, thank you so much. You were so correct.
Now, does the person have to, so when you do a reading, the person has to be there in front of you, or what if somebody else asked you a question about a certain person?
Well, depending upon what the question is, I don't spy, okay? And I have a lot of people that, well, what is my ex-boyfriend doing right now? Sorry, I don't do that. I don't spy on people. you know. But if somebody has a legit question, like, I have a friend of mine, his father, they're not having, they weren't very close, but, his father's having some issues. Can you help? And it just really depends on how much influence this person's energy that they're asking for has, how much they're around that energy. And that helps considerably. Like it's my best friend's dad. What do you see? Well, if it's your best friend's dad, and what I do is I start saying things, and then one of the qualifiers is validation. And as soon as I get my first validations, then that points me, that I'm on the right track. And then sometimes I can get a lot of information, or I'm honest to people and say, I'm not, at this point in time, I'm not really picking up anything. It's not because I don't want to; it's because I'm not getting anything.
Well, that's awesome that you say that. Yeah, that's good.
Right.
All right, we just have another. Couple of the questions have already been answered. Let's see. Zippy Davis wanted to know, after your mom's passing, did she ever come back and try to apologize to you?
Well, that was also part of that dream. I didn't finish, but then I think this will be just enough time, and we'll leave it at this. Okay, my mother, like I said, she haunted me for years, and then it stopped when the city of Marion, Iowa, finally condemned the house and tore it down. Because it was an eyesore and it was decrepit. And when we moved out, some people had moved in it shortly after for not very long. They said, my friends who were still there, they left suddenly in the night, and they never came back. So I wonder why. But anyways, once the house was torn down, I stopped dreaming about her. No more. She was not haunting me. Nothing. Anything from that area. But I do remember several years after that, my next door neighbor was telling me that her grandmother had died, and she was at school the day it happened, and she was so close to her grandmother, and she just really wished that she had a chance to say goodbye to her. And then someone suggested to her that, sometimes when the conditions are right and you really want this to happen, you can go in your dreams and connect with your family members. You can be in charge of it.
Uh-huh.
So, when you're ready for it, when you really want this to happen, tell yourself before you go to bed that night that, you want to connect with your grandmother to say goodbye. So she had the dream, and she cried her eyes out, and she said she woke up the next morning and her pillow was soaked, her bed was soaked. She felt so relieved. She felt so happy. She said she felt this calmness, like everything was all right from then. Because she said her grandmother came to her. They were at the beach, because her grandmother loved the beach. And they were walking hand to hand, on the shore. And my friend was just, sharing everything she ever wanted to say, and goodbye. And then it was acknowledged by her grandmother. So she actually had suggested that I do that.
Oh.
So I'm like, well, I got a reservation about my mom. I don't want to see her anymore. I don't care about her. Well, I don't know what happened, but not too long after that conversation, I had a dream. And in my dream, it was all black except a pinpoint of light. And I remember I'm going towards that light. And I'm going, oh, great, I'm dead. I'm thinking this, I'm dead. I'm down the dark tunnel, and there's a pin of light. But I get to the light, and I remember I looked up at it, and it morphed into a light bulb.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going, okay. And then I went to stand underneath it, and I bumped into something, and I looked down, and the light was cascading. It was black all around, but there was a French outdoor wrought iron cafe table for two. And I remember I put my hand, and I remember the top was beautiful. It was that green black marble. And I remember I put my hands on it. It was ice cold. And then I looked up again, and this time the light bulb had like a Tiffany lampshade over it.
Uh-huh.
So it really cascaded, the light on the table. And then I found myself, I'm sitting down, and I remember I'm looking, and it's a wrought iron chair. It matches the wrought iron of the, of the table. And then all of a sudden, there's this flower vase, and in the flower there was this, in the vase there was this flower, and it was wilted over like this. But I could smell it, and I'm going, why is that familiar? And I went, oh, that smells like a peony. Well, a peony was my mother's favorite flower. But this one was bent over, wilted, and looked dead, right?
Oh, wow.
And the next thing I looked up, across the table, there was this woman, very smartly dressed, wearing like a Jackie O pillbox with a black veil over it.
Uh-huh.
She had gray hair and well coiffed, and she had a pearl necklace, and I remember she had these long elbow-length gloves that looked like the ones my mom used to wear, the ones I used to steal from her when I was a kid or borrow from her to play Batman with. Because every superhero's got those gloves, And I remember looking at the gloves, and then when I looked up again, that flower had sprung back to life.
Really?
Yeah, and it was in full bloom, and it was very fragrant, and I started crying because right then and there I knew that was my mother.
Wow.
Not how she looked when she died, in the same age, because she was 36 when she passed away, but she was as old as she should have been at that time. Because I was like 25 or something.
Wow, Harvey. Wow.
Yeah, and I just started yelling and screaming at her and calling her every filthy name you can think of, and she just sat there, and all she did was she had her hands folded like this, and she was, acknowledging, not saying a word, just letting me talk.
Wow.
And I got it all out. And the more I talked, the more vibrant that flower became.
Oh my goodness! Holy cow!
I know. Just
That's
became really vibrant.
Wow.
And then, when I was done, now she never said a word, nothing. But she did stand up, and the second she stood up, remember it was pitch black around us except that cascading light down on that table.
Yeah.
I was like I was in a theater, that had red curtain walls, right? And she stood up, and she backed up. She backed up and looked like onto a stage where the curtains were. And then this spotlight, some kind of light cascaded over her. And not only was she as young as she was when she died, but she was wearing the exact same dress that I saw that night that she died.
No way.
Yeah, exactly how I saw her, in that vision. Okay?
Oh, wow.
And what she did was she put her arms out like this, and as she did that, the curtain in back of her opened like this. And I, first there was a big, blinding light came in.
Yeah.
And then, as my eyes adjusted, there was this beautiful rolling hills, flowers everywhere, the deepest, bluest sky, crystal clear you'd ever seen. The grass looked like Easter grass, fake grass, but real. Yeah. And the smells coming, and the trees with the soft blowing breeze, and the wonderful scent that was coming in. And my mother stood there between that open curtain, and all of a sudden all these little kids came around her. Almost like on the scene from E.T., right? Yeah, I mean, Encounters of the Fourth Kind, whatever that show was. Close Encounters. And all these little kids were saying, "Come on, Mommy, it's time to go."
Really?
And she just backed in, and she waved one more time, and then the curtains closed.
Oh, wow, Harvey. Wow.
I woke up. I woke up to I was hearing this pounding on the door. Oh, it was my roommate. He thought someone broke into my room because I was yelling, and it sounded like there was a struggle going on. My pillow was soaked, my bed was wet, and I was breathing super hard. And he finally got the door open, and he's like, "Oh my God, I thought what happened?" I said, I think I had a really weird dream.
Wow, Harvey. That's
And
crazy.
he's looking around my room. And he's going, "Dude, man, you freaked me out. I almost called the cops."
Wow, that's
You know?
insane. What a story.
Right.
What a story, Harvey. That's
Right.
amazing. Well, your
But,
episode on Netflix, I think, is the best on that show. And everybody
man,
else is saying that as well.
right,
And it
right.
was,
That's what I mean. There's some on there. I'm telling you. I don't know, especially the second one. You know,
the slaughterhouse.
the
Yeah. Oh, I'm starting to lose connection
murders.
with you. Okay, we're starting to lose
Anyways.
connection.
Okay.
And this was a 2-hour show. I only do hour shows. This was 2 hours. And thanks.
Right, well, great.
Harvey, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's always a pleasure. And my best wishes to you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, Norene. So let's try to we'll chat a little bit more frequently from now because it's been a while.
Oh, I know it's been a while, but we've been friends for a long time, and
Absolutely.
it's
we
when we
got
get
some
together,
stories.
it's like there's no time passed,
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
That's what I love about it.
Thanks,
I'm
honey.
friendly with you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. My best wishes to you, and let us know if you do more of these shows.
All right, absolutely, Noreen. Thank you so
you.
much, and good night, everybody.
Good night, Harvey. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Wow, what a story, huh? That was fabulous. If you guys don't forget, go over to Netflix if you get a chance. It's I'll show it to you again. It's Haunted, the very first season, episode 4, and I really enjoyed. Actually, I enjoyed Harvey's the most on that show. And our best wishes to you, Harvey, and thanks again so much for being on the show. Oh, guys. It's good Thanksgiving next week. Can you believe it? Where did this year go? I can't believe it. It just flew. I can't believe it. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And I have 2 shows scheduled for December. And we only had our Royce in here tonight. Royce Hinman was our mod tonight. And thanks, Royce, for being here. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for coming to the show. It was such a pleasure. I have a lot to be thankful for. Having you come to my shows when I have them. I'm thankful. I'm just thankful for all of you for being loyal to Paranormal Zone TV and for coming to the shows. I really appreciate it, because if you guys didn't come to my shows, there's no point in doing shows. Also, down below, I'm selling merchandise now, so there's merchandise there, and you can go to the page. I'll post the main page, but I think if you click on any one of those, it will take you to the main page. I'm not sure, but I'm going to put underneath all the videos the main page, the main storefront. So everybody, thank you so much. Royce Hinman, thank you, honey, so much for hanging in there with us. He's our mod tonight. Please, everybody, send your prayers to Royce. He really needs them. Send love and your positive energy to Royce. So let's do some shout outs, okay? Oh, we had a big crowd tonight, and people are starting to leave now, but let's do some shout outs. So Royce Hinman, Alicia Franco, Kathy Salento, Cassandra 50, Carolyn Starr, Carl White, Graham Crosby, Katie Palmer, Nancy, who else? I can't see. Chippa Terry. I know I occasionally glance over. Red Spark, Tammy Heitzman, Tammy Rogers. Anybody else? Zippy Davis. Oh gosh, there you are, Carl White. There you are. You didn't come in last week, but I know you sent me a message. Prophecy, I think you said you were a twin. I'm a twin as well. Anybody else? SW Rose 66. Mark Angel. The Haglin. There was an Ashen Cushion as well. Anybody else want to shout out? Sarah Burns. Let's see. Who else? Who else is still here? Oh yeah, Ashen Kusher left. Jojo Bean from Ireland. Thank you so much. Summer Sims. Everybody give a group hug who has left in the chat room. We still have over 100 in the chat room. Oh gosh, Beat 3 Airspace, Gideon Stupke. Anybody else want to shout out? Yeah, we did that. Anybody else? Okay, I don't see anybody else. All right, if I missed you, I apologize. Elaine Michael, now's your chance. Nancy, I did a shout out, honey, for you. Oh, Jane Edwards, Lisa Johnson, Janet Wolf was in for a short time. Anybody else? Oh, what is it? M. Archangel. M is for Saint Michael. Okay, honey. All right, group hugs, everybody. Love you. Love Royce Hinman. Positive prayers to Royce, please, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. Have a wonderful Turkey Day next Thursday. And I'll be back in December we have 2 shows left for the season, okay? Got a lot of shows for next year. I think I'm booked all the way through April. Wow, it's going to be got some good stuff coming up, though. I'm glad you liked the show. I love you guys, okay? So I'm going to go now, and like I said again, thank you. I have so much to be thankful for, and I will have a happy Thanksgiving. So thank you, everybody. I love you. Thank you. Good night. Don't forget to subscribe to my show, okay? Thank you. Good night.